Greetings, critters. It's Fox here, and welcome to my Burrow of Thoughts, aka my channel, where we used to talk about everything spooky. But today, it's time to get out of your burrows because we're going on an adventure. That is right. I am doing my first double fantasy book review. I have two books by Tricia Levenseller, so let's get going on this magical ride. Okay, so the first book that we will be talking about is The Shadows Between Us, and this is by Tricia Levenseller. So a little bit about the plot of this book. Her plan is to woo the king and then to strike and take his kingdom for her own when he falls dead. But what will happen to her devious plan when her heart falls first? Okay, so first things first, my base of fantasy is The Lord of the Rings, Neil Gaiman, and Harry Potter. I read those in the same year when I was 12. That is my base for fantasy. And that being said, that means I really like magic systems and I really like world building. But this book is a YA fantasy, much like Harry Potter was, but it has such minimal world building. And the magic system is next to none. The fantasy part comes out in the king's character, but beyond that, that's all you're getting fantasy-wise. So that was a little bit of a bummer. However, the villainous perspective of your main character, Alessandra, is so fresh. I really enjoyed it. I think I've been reading too many books where the male characters are the enemy to the lovers, but this one, she was the enemy and she was devious. She had her plans and she got things done. What this girl wants, this girl gets. So kudos to Alessandra for that. Now, clearly her character was well developed. The king, you also get to know pretty well. But other than that, the other characters are all surface level. It is a super short fantasy read, so that would be why. I don't know if it would have furthered the story more to have more backstories with the other characters, but it just made me want something a little bit more this book. It just lacked that captivating world. It was very glamorous. It was very regal, but like I said, I really like my magic systems and world building. So when this book lacked that and also had the adolescent approach to the romance, I don't think I was prepared for that. I honestly went into this not knowing that it was a YA, and now knowing that it is a YA, I would say it's decent. It's a good way to dip a literal toe into the fantasy pool. But no, that's all you're going to get with this book. So, that all being said, I am rating The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller 3 tails out of 5. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is Warrior of the Wild. This is also by Tricia Levenseller. So a little bit about the plot of this book. There is a young woman who's about to turn 18 and therefore is taking her warrior trial. She needs to pass this trial to make her father proud, but to also take over leading the village should he ever pass or when he passes. But when she fails the trial and is banished to the wild, her only chance to come home being completing a task. But that task is killing a god. But she would do anything to get home, and she is a warrior. Okay, so my thoughts on Warrior of the Wild by Tricia Levenseller. So this is a YA fantasy like her other book, The Shadows Between Us. However, there's so much action in this book and way more world building, and it's not all that much bigger. You have other villages, you have gods, you have different life paths. You could be a warrior, smithy, etc. And I found that really, really good. I loved that. It added to the story and made it way more of a fantasy for me, a legitimate fantasy, and it had enough romantical tension in it that it scratched the itch for a romance fantasy as well. But the main enjoyment for me out of this book was the action, all the little pickles she gets herself into because she has got a backbone. This girl is going home. The second she's banished, she's like, I'll be back. And she is a fierce character. She is so well developed. She is really inspiring, and the other characters as well all are unique and have their own backstories, and the camaraderie that happens in this book is really, really cool and just made me think of a phalanx in the Spartan times, just how you have each other's back when you're a warrior, the warrior code. I love that. Plus, it is also leaning on Viking and Nordic folklore, and that made this really, 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 really cool. It was a really cool read. The creatures in it are really interesting. They're a little frightening, and their abilities are definitely, definitely more magical than the shadows between us, being the king having the only magical ability. So that all being said, I am rating Warrior of the Wild 4 tails out of 5. The only reason it's not a solid 5 out of 5 for me is I feel if she had written this in a more adult tone and added spice to this book, it would have been perfection. It was a really good read. Warrior of the Wild by Tricia Levenseller, 4 tails out of 5. I recommend. Well, critters, that's all from this Den of Frights today. Thank you so much for being here, watching, and your support. It means the whole wide and wild wilderness to me. It really does, critters. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay cozy and stay magical. Bye.